When you're out on the beach, looks can be deceiving. Some of the things that look like white rocks are actually animals, coral animals. Tonight, News Center 7's health and science reporter, Dr. John Miller, is here with their story. John.
Peter, the only living coral reefs in the continental United States are here in southeast Florida. But fortunately, if you want to see coral, it's possible to do it without going diving out on the reef. We all know the fun and sun side of the beach, but Dr. Alina Froelich knows its hidden side. What is that?
Okay, this is the skeleton of a reef coral.
When the animal is alive, its limestone skeleton is covered by a thin layer of tissue. Each bump of tissue is a single animal.
Most of the large head-like corals will grow about 1 centimeter per year. That's about 1/2 of an inch. So those large colonies you see out there on the reefs are, hundreds to sometimes centuries years old.
Like their relatives, the sea anemones, corals fish for food. Each animal has tiny tentacles covered with microscopic stinging cells. When something touches the cells, they eject tiny harpoons called nematocysts.
These nematocysts discharge and spear the little animal and paralyze it, and then the coral can reel it in on these tentacles and stick it in its mouth and digest it.
But reef corals actually get most of their food from tiny plants, algae, that live within their tissues. The algae take the chemical byproducts of the coral's normal living, and using sunlight, they make food for the coral.
We call this relationship a symbiosis because both partners benefit.
Because they don't move, it's hard to imagine corals competing with each other for space and light, but they do compete.
Corals have the ability to attack and aggress against another animal that comes too close to them.
They do this by extending parts of their stomachs outside of their bodies.
And so they sort of have a battle for space, a territoriality battle that goes on under the reef.
A coral's sex life is as simple as it is brief. Once a year, the corals release sperm and eggs into the water. The tiny larvae they form settle back onto the reef where they begin building a new colony.
As it feeds and grows and makes a skeleton, the individual polyp starts to divide. And this next polyp here, now it's already started to grow into a division. It'll just sort of split as it grows.
The bottom line is that corals are fragile living creatures. They are not just hard rocks. So when you're out on a reef, remember this: your curious touch can kill them. I'd like to thank Steve Allison, who produced and wrote the story you just saw, as well as the ones you'll see the next 2 nights at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow night, I'll show you what seashells look like when they're actually alive out in the ocean. And Friday, I'll show you some ocean animals that actually look like plants.
You and photographer Dale West dived on the reefs to get these stories for this series.
Yeah, we went down to Penny Camp at Key Largo. It was lots of fun.
That must have been exciting. So it's a part of South Florida a lot of South Floridians never get to see.
Yeah, and you misunderstand much of what you see. On Friday, when I'll show you things that look absolutely like plants, like stalks of trees, they are actually animals that were alive and healthy out in the ocean.
We'll look forward to that.
Sure.
Sally.